Welcome back to Oops, the podcast. I'm Francis Ellis, as ever, joined by my dear co-host and friend, Giulio. G, how are you?
Good, man. How you doing?
Well, I'm excited because we've got a very special guest today, as ever. We are joined by the NHL's foremost heartthrob, number 17 from the Tampa Bay Lightning. It's Alex Killorn, folks.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited to be here.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Alex. Now, what can we say about Alex Killorn that hasn't already been said about, I don't know, Jesus would be up there in my mind. I mean, look at this guy. What a dish. What a dreamy dish. And so many hockey players' faces are disfigured, and yet somehow you've managed to maintain this pristine sort of almost like Herculean look. How do you do that?
I've been fortunate, man. A lot of those guys that are really gashed up are fighters and are a lot tougher than me. I kind of just stay around the perimeter and, you know, try to score a couple goals, and then that's it. I don't know. I've been really fortunate. I've had teeth chipped. There's some scars. You just can't see them on my internet Wi-Fi Zoom call here.
Do you have any scars on your body that are in areas that you couldn't show us for PG-13 reasons?
No, none. No, none on my.
Damn.
Yeah, I don't have any scars there.
I was hoping you had some penile scarring.
No.
Dude, do you ever get stressed out before you have to play a game knowing that like you might have to fight somebody? Is that like a stressful, daunting thing?
So the NHL is a lot different. So I've been in the NHL for 8 years, and it's a lot different now than it was when I first got in the league, and it's been evolving so much. But when I first got in the league, it seemed like every team had a legitimate tough guy where that was really his only role, was to like fight people. I mean, They did other things too, but now the game's gotten so quick and so young that those guys have kind of been weeded out. But, you know, if someone's going to fight you, they'll usually ask you, or you'll have to do something really stupid to get jumped. So you have to be ready, but I'm not typically nervous. I'm not thinking about it as much because it doesn't happen, a ton.
Right. And what do you mean by ask you?
Dude, in the NHL, fighting is like sex. You have to get consent. It's incredible.
So there's really two different ways of fighting. Like if someone takes a liberty on one of your star players or hits someone, a dirty hit, typically there won't be any consent. It'll just be a guy from the other team will come and jump you. But if there's two tough guys that are kind of not playing much, they want to get their team back into it, they'll just kind of agree to fight. They'll ask each other, and then, it's the old joke that they always like, everyone's kind of buddies and they'll go grab a beer later. And it really is like that.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Now,
there's no real hatred.
Well, here's the question that I've always wanted to ask. In terms of the fights where it is that sort of genial, like set up, want to go, let's do it, good luck, whatever, drop the gloves, versus you piece of shit, you just blindsided our star player, I'm coming after you. Is there a difference in the fighting style between one fight and the other? Like, or in both cases, are you trying to hurt the other guy and knock him out just as venomously?
Yeah. I think in both cases you're trying to knock the guy out. It's funny because you'll like ask the guy and you'll agree, be like, "Hey, you want to fight?" And once you drop the gloves, it's like that whole politeness is gone, because really you could really get hurt. So you don't want to be like a nice guy about it. You want to protect yourself. It's not like you want to hurt the other guy, but it's kind of like if you don't hurt him, he'll probably hurt you. So. It's like more of a survival instinct type of thing. But there might be a little bit more hatred if some guy takes a cheap shot at one of your players, just because it's in the moment and you're jumping him. So, but in terms of actual fighting, it's not that much different.
Amazing. Well,
I'm talking like I'm the toughest guy in the NHL. I have like 5 fights. So, I mean, I'll give you guys all the scoops, but whatever.
Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate it.
What's your lifetime record in fighting?
So, I mean, I had a couple in the minor leagues, but in the NHL, I think I have 5 fights. The first one, I ended up, like, you always try to get your first one in your belt and the first guy I fought is probably one of the toughest guys in the NHL right now. But when I had fought him, he was a rookie, so I knew nothing about him.
Who's that?
Usually, his name was Anderson on Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell's his first name? But he's a super tough guy. And I remember the way it works is we'll always come in the locker room before games, and the lineup will be posted. So we'll see all the names of the guys we're playing, and we'll usually go through it because we just want to figure out which guys are. If this guy's very physical on the ice, just kind of, give you a little bit going into the game. And I remember I asked like teammates, what's the deal on this guy? And no one said anything. So I was like, okay, he can't be like that tough. And we end up getting we end up fighting. I think he punched me like honestly 20 times. You can watch the video. And I may have gotten one punch. And I just remember coming into the locker room and being like, holy fuck, guys, like, thanks for the heads up. I had like a welt on my head like this big. I couldn't put my helmet back on.
Oh my God.
But yeah, that was one I definitely lost. I lost another one. I won one and I tied one. So what's that? 1, 2, and 1.
Okay. Yeah.
Like I said, I'm not the toughest guy.
And then there was another fight in there somewhere that you got beaten so badly you don't even remember what happened.
No, I'll own all of my fights. I remember when I was a rookie, this guy Ryan Malone, he's like a rock star. He said, "It doesn't matter how many you win; it's how many you show up for." So
it's a good line. I like that.
Good
yeah,
for Ryan Malone. Hey, so one of the reasons, or the reason that I know Alex Killorn and that I can call him a friend and I'm not just name dropping, is because he and I went to Harvard together. Giulio, you know Harvard, right?
I've heard of it.
Yeah. So we were there at the same time, and Alex was actually a class below me, but we were in a final club together. It was called the AD. And sorry, I just got a phone call. And this was a lot of fun. I mean, we had these final clubs. They were basically like polished fraternities without the Greek life nonsense and all that. And we used to go to parties together. And the thing was, Alex, as I recall, like, you were a very good hockey player in college, but you sort of had a breakout year your senior year. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. I had my first 2 years, I was kind of getting my feet under me. My third year, I could have left to go play pro hockey. I decided to stay my fourth year, but because of my fourth year and how well it went, that's kind of the reason I think I've been successful, because I had so much momentum going into my pro career.
Hell yeah. Very
Awesome.
cool. And what a classic hockey answer, by the way. Just so little information. So
I got to remember I'm talking to Francis, not like Joe Smith, my media beat reporter.
Yeah. I'm so glad we're past those. Like, we're not going to ask you any more normal questions here. We want to get to the heart of you.
Yeah, get to it.
So funny.
So I'm gonna lay some things bare here. So when we were in the AD together, I remember this was before you'd become this like prodigy star who would then go on to score multiple Stanley Cup final goals. At this time, you were just Mr. Harvard athlete, and we were there at the time that Jeremy Lin was at Harvard. And if you think about the star power that he's garnered since his time, it's hard to imagine that at Harvard nobody really even gave a shit that he was there. In my experience, just people didn't really prioritize or care that much about athletes at Harvard. And so I remember you were competing for chicks with guys that, I mean, honestly, some of these guys were just scrubs. Like, there was this kid on the water polo team that you used to have to compete with for chicks. And looking back, I mean, that guy probably makes like $200,000 a year. What a bum,
I know. And I think, you know what? And I'd probably lose a lot of those battles too back then. But man, like, that's just the way it was at school. And I think I'm trying to not like put on my, normal answer, media reporter answer, but like, I think there's a humbleness that comes from that.
Yeah.
Because I ended up playing with a lot of guys in the NHL that from the age of like 6 till however old they are now, they were touted as being superstars, kind of like the LeBron James types.
Right.
And it's weird. Like, I signed a pro contract and, no one would have ever known in school, and no one really treated you differently. One, because they didn't care, and then two, just because they had other things going on. So it was a different experience. We had some fun at the ADL. I remember that.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we sure did. One time, one of the funniest memories I have is that we had to, like, when you're a sophomore, that's when you get in. And there was this kid when Alex was a junior and I was a senior, we were voting in the next class and like going through each candidate or whatever and vetting them. And there was this kid that came up that Alex was very good friends with. I won't say his name. But he was controversial. He was a little bit of a lightning rod, and and had rubbed a few people the wrong way. And some people were like raising their issues with him. And Alex was like really going to bat for this kid. And then you asked our other good friend, Alex Lineberry, like, come on, man, what do you think of this kid? He's a good dude. And our friend Alex Lineberry was like, yeah, I mean, he did punch me in the face last year, but he's not a bad guy. And it was one of the funniest moments. I don't know why. I loved that. Looking back, I might have rescinded that. No, I know who you're talking about. He's a great dude. I just remember that whole situation. He was actually living with me in my house. Yeah, so I went to bat for him pretty hard. Definitely a controversial character still to this day, I think, in a lot of circles. But I will say he is one of the most entertaining human beings, regardless of how it affects you, I guess you could say. We're trying not to like spill too much, but yeah. Okay, so you're Canadian. You're from Toronto, right?
I'm from Montreal.
Montreal. Sorry.
Nice,
I mean,
Francis.
it's the same thing.
Same thing, no worries.
Yeah. And, so many Canadians are so good at hockey, and, it's strange because Canada doesn't have a huge population, and yet you guys contribute so many players to the NHL. Is that because there's so little to do in Canada that people have to play hockey?
I mean, partly. I think it's just really cold, so it's easier to skate than go play basketball outside. But it's just part of the culture. I mean, like, everyone plays hockey. It doesn't matter who you ask. Like, at one point in their life, all Canadians have played hockey, whether it was minor leagues or whatever. And it's just kind of part of our blood. I mean, I think I skated before I could walk. I was on skates before I could walk. Whether or not I could skate, I mean, my parents were just kind of pushing me around, but that's just the way it is. I mean, I'm sure you grew up playing some hockey from Maine, right?
Sure did. We used to play pond hockey, and I'll tell you what.
Throwing your hockey accent there.
Pond hockey.
Yeah, here we come.
Fucking pond hockey, dude.
Yeah, we used to set up little goals. Like, you'd put like a shovel down, with a wide shovel, and that would be the goal. And then we would go in when we lost feeling in our toes. We would go into the hut that had a nice stone chimney and a little fire going, and we would unscrew our thermos of hot cocoa and pass that around. And so many of us kids ended up with herpes because of it.
From a young age.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I have a question.
Anymore.
Yeah. So you, I know you went to Harvard, obviously, and was there a moment where you're like, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to play pro, it's going to be close, so I'm going to try to get the best education I can kind of thing? Like, how did that process?
Yeah, that was one of the reasons I picked. My parents had a huge part in helping me kind of navigate the college process and what to do. My mom was a teacher when I was growing up, so she always wanted, like, no matter what, she's like, you're going to Harvard. Didn't really give me a choice. And it's funny. I don't know if I've told anyone this, but when I was picking my college, it came down to 4 schools. It came down to BC, I want to stay in the Northeast, BU, Harvard, and Yale. And while I was in college, all 3 of those other schools that I didn't go to won a hockey national championship. So that's pretty cool. But either way, I wouldn't have changed anything. I really enjoyed my time there. But my parents really kind of pushed me in that direction. When I was younger, in my mind, I was like, yeah, I'm always playing the NHL just because, that was just my mindset. But, subconsciously, I think picking Harvard was kind of like, this may not work out. Let's let's help ourselves out here.
Your backup plan. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, as far as academics are concerned, I know that because Harvard's a big time hockey program. Like I went to BU actually, and I remember like Harvard and all those teams. Like, it was like the top, right?
So
did you? Yeah, exactly. Did you get leeway with academics, or at Harvard is that not a thing?
No, I mean, I don't know how Francis could talk on this too. And everyone just thinks, I mean, they say you'll have tutors and stuff, but there's a lot of professors who actually don't like athletes at Harvard.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have to pick. There's some that will love you and will help you out. I had a professor that was unbelievable. I wrote an essay for a class, and it was when I was going to play pro hockey, so he kind of let me just take a class and do an essay. But there's some professors that, I mean, I don't know how to put it, maybe don't feel that you're worthy of being a Harvard student because athletics kind of helped you get in.
Right.
I don't know. So I think sometimes it can be tougher, but they give you a lot of resources. Like they'll help you out. Like here's a tutor, here's this. But it's not like kids are doing your papers. Kids are doing your stuff. You have to hand in all your stuff. You have to go to class. It's not like, I know I've played with guys in the NHL that went to like North Dakota and Wisconsin. I won't name any names, but it was a lot different of an experience for them. They weren't writing 24-page essays like the night before a game.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Put it that way.
Makes sense.
Oh God, dude. Yeah.
I don't miss those days at all.
But
No.
so you went to boarding school too, right? I did a little digging.
Yeah. So I went to Deerfield Academy. Yeah.
And
Must
for the
be
whole
nice.
time, or as a PG?
I was going to go originally as a PG, but if you're Canadian, they let you go repeat a year just because of the year. I don't know why, but the school system, the way it translates, I repeat a year. So I did my junior and senior year. Yeah.
Nice. So we've had boarding school students on this podcast who are currently in boarding school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
we're just
Children.
fascinated with boarding school because it seems ridiculous. How was your experience in boarding school?
I loved it. There was a couple. So where I'm from in Montreal, it's not very common that people go to boarding schools. For me, I did it just to kind of get me to college or help colleges see me play, because a lot of kids play semi-pro in junior leagues in Canada. But I really enjoyed it, man. For me, like whenever you're on a team, I was on the golf team, the hockey team. What other teams? No, I wasn't on the football. But either way, you find like buddies and you become close with guys. There was also like a ton of good-looking girls. I had been going to an all-guys Catholic school in Montreal.
Oh, wow.
So I ended up going to this boarding school, and all these girls from like Greenwich, Connecticut,
Yes.
like blonde hair, like
Keep going.
they used to call it like the spring season was awesome, and it was like
Spring
oh my
season.
God. If I could say it like in a PC way, it was just awesome, man. Like I had so much fun, met so many good people that I'm really close to this day. It was definitely a very preppy, atmosphere, one that I wasn't familiar with, but adapted to it, bought some pink shorts, wore them once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
I had a really good time at boarding school for sure.
Are you held up at Deerfield as sort of a legend or somebody who went on to achieve, huge success? Like, do they have your pictures up on the walls and stuff?
I don't know. I don't think so. I know that if you ask like the hockey, there's not many at any boarding school. If there's a guy that ends up making it to the NHL, I know a lot of people will be into that and follow you. I don't think they have like a statue of me up there. There's probably some, guys that have accomplished more from Deerfield than I have.
Well,
sure.
yes, the current king of Jordan went to Deerfield, King of Belgium.
Yeah.
He's done a lot more than you. You know what I'm saying? He's ruling a country. That's better. So, Alex, you're known as the king of social media in the NHL. Yeah. How did you get this title?
That's amazing.
So it really came about during quarantine. So you have to realize that when I first came in the NHL, Instagram was a very new thing. And I guess you could call it the old guard or older guys in the NHL would really not like it if you were on social media a lot. if anything you posted, you would get roasted in the locker room. Just everyone on you, like, why are you doing this? What are you doing? Da, 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 da. Once they kind of, certain new guys got on Instagram, started posting stuff, and then, you see LeBron James, Tom Brady, building legit businesses through social media.
Totally.
People kind of changed their tune. But during quarantine, I don't know if you want me to get into the whole story of how I kind of changed.
We do. Tell us what you're up to. Yeah.
Yeah. So my media guy on my team, quarantine happened. No more hockey. He's like, Alex, we need you to send something out to the fans, a video basically telling the fans we're upset. It's a tough time. We look forward to coming back to hockey. We miss you guys. And I think that holds some kind of value because fans really love that stuff. But when I went on my Instagram feed, I had seen probably 20 other guys in the NHL doing that exact same, conversation or that same post. So I was like, I'm not doing it. And he kept being like, just do it. And a week later, I'm like, I'm not doing it. How about this? I will go on my jet ski and I'll do an Instagram live and I'll take questions from the fans. It'll be different. I think the fans will enjoy it more than a stupid video from me, just doing whatever. So he's like, yeah, that'd be good. So do that. After I decided to do that, I was like, we have a pretty cool situation. We live on an island. I live on an island. And a bunch of us from the team live on the water. So I was like, if I get on my jet ski, they'd probably rather ask Steven Stamkos, Victor Hedman questions. So I ripped around on my jet ski, Instagram live, started asking, called the Doc Talk with Killer, where I just roll up to your dock and kind of ask you fan questions. I'd have to have some questions planned because I don't know if you've been on Instagram live and you try to get fans to ask legitimate questions. It doesn't happen.
It's awful.
They just
stupid questions.
There's just 1,000 questions about Carol Baskin and, about what happened in the 2012 playoffs. There's always some fans from opponents' teams that are just chirping you. So I'd be pretending to read questions, but I was really just doing my own questions.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of, it picked up. We've done some other guys. I think we're going to try to get Gronk on. I think he'd be willing to do it. Tom Brady lives on the same island as us. He is not willing to do it.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, because
too bad.
He was the guy that I've been doing a bunch of these interviews, right, where they talk about Doc Talk, and they're like, have you been trying to get Tom Brady? And every time I'm like, yeah, I'm trying so hard to get Brady. And I'm not really trying, but through these interviews, I'm hoping that somehow he hears it and is like, let's do it.
You know what? You're going to have to get another really big fish to then show him, hey, these are the size fish that we are currently fishing for. That's how these guys do it, right?
Yeah.
Because so somebody like his wife Giselle would be a good guest for you.
Well, we got one of their teammates. Yeah, did you know Cameron Braid at all at Harvard?
Who?
So yeah, he's a tight end for the Bucks. He's a pretty good player. But he went to Harvard.
What's his last name again?
Cameron Braid.
Okay, no, I don't know.
He plays for the Bucks, and we got him on. But I don't want to he's kind of, I don't want to ask him to ask Brady because he's maybe a little bit younger in the league. And I don't think he wants to ask his quarterback to come on my jet ski talk show.
But you're also making T-shirts, right? And selling them for a foundation.
Yeah, T-shirts. Actually, you know what? I think I have one here.
Yeah. I wanted to wear one for this interview, but the shipping time would have put it past the interview, so I didn't buy it instead.
So here are the shirts.
Sick.
They're really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, they're good for summer. If you're gonna head to Montauk, I know you like to head out there, Francis.
You and me both, buddy, huh?
Yeah.
Right?
Hey. So I don't know why I saw that picture that you posted, and it's got to be the best picture of me ever taken. So I thank you. The one picture that doesn't shows some semblance of abs. There must have been some sort of light hitting me or something. I don't know, but thank you for posting that.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.
Back to the shirts quickly.
Where can we get those?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, good heavens.
So I was just getting a phone call. So on my Instagram bio, link in the bio, and TampaBaySports.com, you can get them. basically we're raising money for underprivileged kids who, because of COVID, and kids are at home right now, they have no way to connect with their teachers. Like some of their families don't have Wi-Fi. Some of them don't have iPads. All the money from these shirts, I think we've raised, over 50,000 now. We'll be going to them to help them out. Yeah.
Yeah. So
buy
follow Alex at Killorn17. He's got 48,000 followers, which isn't bad. Not bad. I don't know. He's verified, which is, a relief. So yeah, that's cool. That's really cool.
How many followers
dude.
do you have, Francis?
How many?
Yeah.
127,000 and falling.
Subtle brag. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe throw me up. Maybe, I can't wait to get some more followers after you just blow me up all over your page.
You can probably expect a good 20 to 30 followers from this podcast.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Take where you can get them.
Low bump.
Now, Alex, sorry, go ahead, Jake.
No, go for it.
Well, you mentioned Montauk. So it's funny because we all knew Alex in college, and he was just one of the guys, and then he went on to have this illustrious career in the NHL, and you've been also an integral part of a team that has been so successful while you've been playing, which is really fun as a friend to be able to not just say like, I know that guy, but to be able to watch you in the Stanley Cup Finals, scoring goals, having hat tricks. You've done a lot of. You've been you're not just a guy who like sniffed the NHL. You are very much in it and very secure. You will retire when you want to retire instead of getting cut, I would think. And that's awesome. That's awesome, But what's amazing is everyone knows that hockey players are very humble and unassuming. A lot of the time you wouldn't be able to pick a hockey player out on the beach as opposed to, like, let's say if you saw Gronk on the beach, you'd be like, that dude clearly plays professional sports. Yeah. And as you mentioned, Alex, like your body, like, it's fine. I love it. I'm having fun.
Subtle jab. Hey,
yeah. But the one little piece of flair that you have a couple pieces of flair when we're on the beach in Montauk. You always wear your really cool Rolex watch, which I really like. I like that. It's like
which one?
Ooh.
Okay.
Hey, if you haven't seen his appliances, they're all top of the line. Check out that. Was that an espresso maker? My God.
Viking, baby. Sub-Zero.
What can't go in that refrigerator is my question.
Yeah. Should do a refrigerator tour.
Yeah.
What's in your fridge?
But dude, I'm going in a lot of different directions here. One question I want to ask you before I talk about your sex life in Montauk is the question I want to ask: in playing in Florida as a professional athlete, there is no state income tax.
Correct.
And you talk about like if you would want to be a pro athlete, where would you want to play? And a lot of young people would say like, I want to play for the Knicks, or I want to play for the Rangers in Madison Square Garden and live in New York City. The reality is, those guys are getting similar salaries and paychecks and losing so much more money in city tax, state tax, and also the cost of living in New York. Whereas to play professional sports in Florida or some of the other states that have no income tax, you're just walking away with a lot more. Did any of that factor into your decision? Does that factor into the decisions of players?
It doesn't factor into a lot of players because we get drafted. We don't really pick which team we're going to. It has a huge factor when you're a free agent and you become, you're trying, a lot of teams are bidding on you and you end up picking where you're going. I know that gets brought up a ton, Texas, Arizona, Florida are all big spots where people like to go because of that. And a lot of teams, are unhappy with that because I think it's an unfair advantage that certain teams have, which is a fair point. So they're trying to kind of even that out somehow going forward. Hopefully after my contract's done.
Yeah. How many more years do you have on your contract?
I have 3 more years on my contract.
That's amazing, dude.
Yeah.
Congrats. And how much longer would you want to play after that?
I would like to
What's your
play as
goal?
long as I can. No, so after this contract, that'll be 11 years in the league. I mean, getting to 15 years would be awesome. How realistic that is, I don't know. It all depends on how your body will hold up.
Yeah.
I'd like to get another contract after this one. We'll put it that way.
And are there pension benchmarks? Like if you get to 10 years versus 15, et cetera?
So the full pension is 10 years. It's obviously prorated. So if you play 1 year, you get 1/10. But the maximum amount you can get is 10 years.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, that's cool.
Okay.
So if you play 20 years, you don't get anything extra than the guy that plays 10 years.
Okay. That's interesting because I know I'm actually weirdly friends with DeBrickashaw Ferguson from the New York Jets.
Yeah.
And he played 10 years, and then the day that he hit his 10-year mark, even though he was in good health, he retired.
Done. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah. It's something that got bargained. My first year in the NHL is when it first was bargained. So all the players before me don't really have the benefit. It's just going forward. So I was pretty lucky that my first year was the first year that that pension plan started.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you single?
I am not single.
Oh.
There go all the stories, right?
I mean, like, what are we doing here? You know,
I'm an open book. You're not single, right?
No, not single. Very much in love.
Single.
Yeah.
It's you.
Well, that's great.
You got 107. What do you have? 117,000 followers, and you're single. I only got 49, buddy.
127, and that's not what this is about, Alex.
Okay.
You want to find someone to settle down with. You know that at a certain point you grow up. But here, my question is this: for a long time, you were single in the NHL, and you guys are on the road like what, 41 games of the year?
Yeah, 41 games. Yeah,
82 game season. You are constantly hopping on buses to get on planes to travel to the next place to check in to your hotel and wherever. You know, did you establish relationships with women that you could count on to come give you a foot rub in Dallas, in Arizona when you were on the road?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't one of those guys. I know exactly what you're talking about. Someone who kind of has something set up wherever he goes. Mm-hmm. In a lot of cases, it's different for different sports teams. We play so many games that, like for me, myself, the night before the game, I really just want to relax. I don't want to have to deal with, sleeping arrangements or anything like that. Some guys are different, but we play so many games that it's kind of difficult to manage that when you're playing back-to-backs. But yeah, the big cities, you like to, form some relationships, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Good diplomatic answer.
Yeah. That's very nice. And then another question I would have is, hockey, obviously known as the professional sport with the highest instance of staph infections, back knee, things like that, really quite disgusting from a bacterial standpoint. How would you wash off the stench of your pads after a hard-fought loss to the Flyers to prepare yourself for a night out on the town?
Man, just like regular soap. They do a really good job washing the gear. I don't know. You want to Francis. We just put body wash on ourselves.
You've been so trained to answer questions. Like, there's no reason you should have answered that question. That was a ridiculous question.
Yeah. Well, what do you want me to be like? Screw off, Francis?
Yes. Tell me to screw off. Yeah. Nobody's told me to screw off in a while.
Yeah, I know. You know what? You have to. Listen. Guys are in different situations. Especially with everything that's going on, you want to make sure everything you say, you don't get in trouble. So
I know. Hey, listen. In all truth, if there's anything in this interview that we are worried will potentially incriminate you or hurt your ability to get Tom Brady on your jet ski, we will scrub that. I promise.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I do have one more question. I've had this theory for a long time that one of the reasons hockey players have such longevity in their careers, and it is my impression that like hockey players can play later in age than basketball players, certainly football players. And my theory is that like knees are one of the biggest reasons why people have to retire from professional sports. And my theory is that the gliding motion of skating, it leads to much less impact on the knee joint than running up and down a basketball court or cutting across a football field. Is there any truth to that? And why is it that guys like Jaromir Jagr can play until they're like 44 years old?
Yeah, I mean, not the only time guys like hurt their knees or whatever, if it's actual like a collision. It's never guys just wear and tear on your knees because you're gliding the whole time. It's not like you're cutting. You're not like when I watch those. I hate when people say basketball is not a physical sport and guys, aren't tough because those guys put so much more pressure on their joints and their body than we do. As we hit each other harder, but it's just different, right? Like those guys have a ton of pressure on their joints and stuff, but it's also difficult to play long in the NHL just because you play so many games, man. The season is such a grind. I know we were talking earlier about, women in cities, but like just going from city to city to city to city, getting into a hotel at 3 a.m., knowing you have to play at 7 p.m. the next night. It's not so much a physical grind. It's also a mental grind. So It's about balancing that.
Damn. Totally. Let me ask you this, dude. What has quarantine been like for you and your teammates? Are you guys practicing? Like, can you fill us in a little on that?
So I think it was this week was our first time skating. They opened our arena, Emily Arena. The team opened it. We get skate in small groups. Mm-hmm. We get tested 3 times a week.
Wow.
It's pretty crazy. They obviously have to take pretty drastic measures to let us skate. We all have our own towel. We can't share water. Like it's, everything's being done to make sure that we're safe. And we skate in groups of 6. And then after we're done skating, a whole cleaning crew comes in and sanitizes everything in the area that we've been using. So That's what we're doing now. I mean, before that, I was golfing a lot. Florida's different than a lot of states. My golf course never closed.
Right.
And I have my home gym, so I just work out there.
So do all the guys have home gyms? Like, are there any guys who don't have a way to work out who just showed up to practice all fat, like after quarantine?
No, so a lot of guys actually don't have home gyms. A lot of the younger guys that live in condos, a lot of the condos close their gyms.
Right.
Luckily, our trainer has a home gym, and he would have groups of 3 coming in throughout the day where guys would be working out just to keep in shape and to kind of just get out of the house. I know a lot of guys were just getting stir crazy sitting at home.
It's clutch.
What you described as just now as like the early skating kind of regulations sounds so far to me from being able to play a full game. Yeah. And yet, has the NHL, do they have a timeline, and maybe you can't tell us, of when they expect full games to come back? Yeah. So the timeline changes every other day. A lot of it has to do with quarantining when people come back from, like, if a guy comes back from Europe or Canada, right now they'd have to quarantine for 14 days on their own. So that kind of affects how we're going to do a training camp and how things are going to go going forward. But as of now, it's just small group skating. In July, mid-July, they want us to do a full training camp. And then end of July, beginning of August, hopefully just jump right into playoffs. So with no fans, obviously it'd be in 2 hub cities to start for the West and the East. But it'll be interesting. So they're going to – how many weeks were left of the regular season? We had 12 games left. So that would be, 4 weeks of regular season when it stopped. So they're going to have the way that the standings were when quarantine began is just how the playoffs are going to go? Basically. So there's 16 teams that typically make the playoffs. They included I think it's 24 teams
to help the teams that were fighting for points,
Right.
to give them a sort of chance. So it's basically the top 4 teams in each conference have a bye. The bottom 10, well, what is it? The bottom, whatever the other bottom teams are, my math is terrible, will have a playoff buy-in. So they have to beat a team to make the playoffs, pretty much.
Got it.
The bottom 8 teams, sorry.
Yeah. That makes sense. And you guys were leading your division, right?
Yeah, well, Boston was. Boston's leading. So, like the top 4 teams, us, Boston, Philly, and Washington, will basically play a round-robin tournament to determine our seeding from 1 to 4, which hasn't been confirmed yet, which kind of sucks Boston's our biggest rival, and they were walking away with the most points, and they may have to play us, for a seeding position, which they probably would have already won.
And that would just be one game?
Yeah, one game. We'd play each team once.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah.
Amazing to see how creative people are getting with professional sports right now.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. The NBA is happening soon, right, in Orlando?
Yeah, they're all going to Orlando. I don't know what kind of format they're doing, but there was a lot of people unhappy with the NHL's format just because every team's in a different kind of situation.
Right.
But I think everyone realizes that it's such a different time and that we have to kind of make adjustments to make this work, right?
Totally, dude.
Well,
Crazy.
amazing. This is great. Last question, how you've been in the league for 8 years. This is such a different season. How will it be to have played so many regular season games, to have had such a specific sense of where you stood in the league and heading into the playoffs, all of a sudden to have this crazy hiatus, and then, as you said, go back into like a training camp and then this weird playoffs? Has it helped in that guys who were like dealing with nagging injuries are now more healthy, or has it hurt in that guys who were really in shape, now you guys have lost that a little bit?
Well, it's kind of works both ways, right? When you look at our team, we had 3 guys that were probably going to be iffy for playoffs. I know Stamkos, who's one of our best players, was getting surgery done, and he probably would have only been there for round 2. Now he's going to be ready to go. So it's good in that sense. But for a guy like me, I felt like I was playing the best hockey of my life, before that. And there's a lot of momentum that comes with that. Now it's basically like I've had a summer where I haven't done much, and I just have to pick up and kind of where I left off. It's going to be tough, but it's not a situation that anyone wants to be in. It's what we're stuck with. So it's difficult.
Got it.
For sure, dude.
It's going to be tough playing in front of no fans. I will say that.
Yeah, it's going to be weird.
Just like uninspiring or silent and odd?
It's going to be both. I think people don't understand how much a crowd can affect a game, not only in momentum swings, but also in penalty calls. And this is something that has not been talked about. A lot of times the refs don't really see everything, but if the whole crowd makes, a loud noise or go, sighs, you've seen so many calls get called because of that, and those aren't going to be there. You're going to hear everything that's being said on the ice. There's going to be a lot more talk. And then like when you score, it's just, everyone loves scoring in the visitors arena just because it's cool to hear the silence, but it's going to go from, silent to silent, not loud to silent. So,
Right.
And it's going to be like the practice, the guys who are really good in practice are going to probably play well.
Yeah, So I don't know how much pressure is going to be put on certain guys, but you're going to have to manufacture, those kind of situations, I guess.
Right.
Sure,
Well,
man.
Fantastic. Alex Killorn, you've been an absolute gem for us. Where can we find you? And please tell us, how to buy the shirts and everything that we can find you to follow on social and stuff.
Yeah, so you could follow me at Killorn17. I've just made it my new goal to surpass you.
That won't happen.
Instagram. Listen, I started becoming an influencer like 3 weeks ago. So let me get some momentum. You've been doing it for a while, so you can follow me at Instagram, Killorn17. The t-shirts are in the bio. Buy the shirts for a good cause. Thanks for having me, Fran.
Absolutely, dude. It was such a pleasure.
Sure.
As always, we are Oops, the podcast. I am Francis Ellis, at Francis CC Ellis. He is not Julio with a J on Instagram. Send us your mistakes, your failures, all that. Oh, really quick, we forgot to ask you the big oops that we wanted to ask you, which you're not going to like. You guys last year.
My Wi-Fi is going.
Oh, yeah. Was it last year or 2 years ago that the Tampa Bay Lightning finished the regular season with the highest wins of any team in NHL history, only to be categorically dismissed in the first round of the playoffs? How did that feel? Why did that happen? What's that like?
This was like the one show I thought I would come on, and that question would never come up. But it sucked, man. It was terrible. Like, I was like depressed for a little bit.
Yeah. Welcome to my life. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's tough, man. Like, you're such a great team. Everyone keeps touting you. We had the best record in the history of the NHL. Like, think about that. The NHL has been around for a long time. And we just walked into the perfect storm. I think we were a little maybe too confident in our abilities. The last 20 games of the season, we didn't play a meaningful game because we had already clinched first place by like game 63. So we really just weren't ready for the playoffs, whereas Columbus, got in the last point. They were fighting the last 20 games.
Right.
And we just weren't ready. They outplayed us in every asset, but you'd hope you learn from it. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they lost to Columbus, which, I didn't. You wouldn't even know that town had a sports team.
I hope all the Columbus fans they're going to get on you for that. They're crazy.
Oh yeah,
fans, man.
We have a lot of listeners in Columbus.
We actually do. We actually have a lot.
You'd be
Do we
surprised.
really?
Yeah.
They will come after you. Yeah.
When I think of Columbus,
They're proud people.
I only think of like heroin syringes and like opioid clinics, but that's, probably not what I should say.
Nice,
they're not doing well.
Way to close it out.
Yeah.
They're not doing
We're
well.
Oops the Podcast. That's Alex Killorn. Best of luck the rest of the way. We're going to be following you, and we will see you guys next week.